the Intifada.
Free, free
Palestine.
Free, free
Palestine.
From London to Palestine.
Occupation is a crime.
From Tottenham to Palestine.
Occupation is a crime.
Tottenham, Tottenham, it's our time.
Tottenham, Tottenham, it's our time.
Shut it down for Palestine.
Shut it down for Palestine.
Tottenham, Tottenham, it's our time.
It's our time.
Shut it down for Palestine.
Shut it down for Palestine.
David Lammy, shame on you.
David Lammy, shame on you.
Your hands are bloody too.
Your hands are bloody too.
David Lammy, shame on you.
David Lammy, shame on you.
Your hands are bloody too.
Your hands are bloody too.
David Lammy, shame, shame.
David Lammy, shame, shame.
All the crimes in your name. David Lammy, shame, shame.
David Lammy, shame, shame.
Genocide in your name.
Genocide in your name.
Free, free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
People united. We'll never be defeated. People united. We'll never be defeated. The people united. We'll never be defeated. In a hundred, in a million.
We are all Palestinians.
In a hundred, in a million.
We are all Palestinians.
We are all Palestinians.
Stop the bombing now, 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 now! We are the people! We won't be silent! Stop the bombing now, 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 now! We are the people! We won't be silent! Stop the bombing now, 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 now! We are the people! We won't be silent! Stop the bombing now, 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 now! We are the people! We won't be silent! Stop the bombing now, 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 now! We are the people! We won't be silent! Stop the bombing now, 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 now! Palestine! 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 Palestine will live forever!
Gary, what's going on? Are there speeches? Or are we running?
Palestine!
David Lammy, shame, shame.
David Lammy, shame, shame.
You know what, actually, I'm so glad so many people turned up today. When I heard that there was a rally in David Lammy's constituent, I knew I had to cancel all plans and get here. It's not about groups, it's not about anything. We are all united for one cause. And David Scummy Lammy just came back from Israel. While the IOS bombed 5 schools in 8 days. This was funded by our money. He's sitting there shaking this war criminal's hand who's got a warrant out for his arrest. Shame! So when we hear that there's marches to put pressure on these crooked MPs to end UK British complicity in genocide, we must unite ASAP. Drop everything we're doing. Sometimes things take movement is so beautiful. Free, free!
Palestine!
The people united!
We'll never be defeated!
The people united!
We'll never be defeated!
The people united!
We'll never be defeated!
David Lammy, shame on you!
David Lammy, shame on you!
Okay, can we have the speakers up here, please? Sit down, relax. We're just having some speakers, a singer, a poet, just fantastic. I just want to say, let's give it up for this protest. Because it's these little protests up and down this country, across Europe, in America, that have made this protest movement what it is. And let's make no mistake, it's because of us that it became an election issue. It's because of us anyone's taking notice of it at all. It's because of our movement. And even though they tried to get us off the streets, we are staying on the streets because that's where the battle is. Whether we do it by walking, marching, shouting, films, putting rooms around Parliament, it doesn't matter. We stay out here. We're not going away. We're not going away. So look, what we've got is quite a few speakers. Relax, and let's go with it. So my first speaker, I would like to ask somebody that's known well to you, Sarah, please. And I'm sure she's known to you in Tottenham, in Haringey, all over. She's been very active, and she's going to say a few words. Welcome, Sarah, please.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. It's really important that we still keep coming out month after month. It's horrific. I don't know about you, I'm exhausted and broken, but we have to keep going. So I wanted to speak a little bit about the connections in order that we can advocate for Palestine in a better way and bring more people with us. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is it's an anti-colonial struggle, and we have to focus on that. So for me, when we say from Guantanamo to Grenfell to Gaza, it's not just we all share the same struggles. The same pattern of racism and impunity that killed Stephen Lawrence, Mark Duggan, and Chris Kaba here in London, Nahel Marzouk in Paris, George Floyd in Minneapolis, is the same racism and impunity that killed Hind Rajab with 355 bullets in her young body. The same ideas of supremacy that slashed young Sidra Hasuna's body in half. It's the same superiority that targeted and annihilated Dr. Rifat El Arir and most of his family. The same ideas of racial hatred that caused the Israeli occupation forces to unleash a vicious dog on young Mohammed Bar a couple of weeks ago, leaving him mauled, bleeding out, to die alone. Unfortunately, he is not the first Palestinian to be attacked by Israeli army dogs, neither will he be the last. The patterns of utter dehumanization that we have been witnessing in Gaza for 9.5 months now are not new. Neither are the land grabs, the genocide, the ecocide, the domination, or the total annihilation of indigenous culture, people, and practices. We should not be surprised that both Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer's UK governments are fans of the Zionist entity state that a former UK Prime Minister, Arthur Balfour, created in 1917. After all, the much celebrated British Prime Minister Winston Churchill was enthusiastic about using poison gas against recalcitrant Arabs. This is like 100 years ago, whether they were Kurds, Iraqis, or Palestinians, as he explained to his advisors in 1920. He would also refer to the indigenous Arabs of these lands as turbulent tribes. Like when he said, open quote, "I am strongly in favor of using poison gas against uncivilized tribes," end quote. Indeed, Churchill was a powerful advocate for the use of chemical warfare, which we still see today. But I also wanted to speak about the ecocide in Palestine, the poisoning of the land, the air, the water, taking the ability of Palestinians to create their own food and have food sovereignty is a powerful step to eradicating the people when you take the food source away. So there's various cases of like fertilizer factories that people in 48 borders don't want, so they move it to the West Bank, and then all the wastewater, the sewage, infected bodily fluids, everything goes into the West Bank and poisons the water. It's basically like a wastewater swamp, killing all the olive trees, citrus groves, like farming and sustenance. So that's a huge aspect to this genocide. Obviously, there's bombing and killing, but they're wiping out the ability of Palestinians to survive and keep feeding themselves. And there's been the use of herbicides for decades, which are known carcinogens, which were also used during the Vietnam War. I don't know if people remember Agent Orange and multiple pesticides, which are still seen today in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos in birth defects. They still affect people, cancer, etc. So the soil in Gaza is going to be contaminated for decades, as with the West Bank. So we need to focus on all these different aspects of this domination. And finally, I wanted to say a quote that I read in America, that apparently there are 393 million guns in America, which is more than the population itself. America is a nation born of violence. It was born on the genocide of the Native Americans, and this is just continuing, right? The global north is totally dominating the global south, and we have to fight back. We can't edit this history. We know the true death toll is going to be closer to 200,000 people, so it is a genocide. An UN agency said clearing the Gaza rubble could take up to 15 years. It's not going to be inhabitable. This was always their plan. Israel didn't make the desert bloom. They pride themselves on being like ecological warriors. They were allowed to attend the COP26, but actually they caused a lot more ecological destruction. So now we know what time it is. We can't keep editing this history. And the willful editing of history helps to perpetuate these crimes against the Palestinian people. So I'd just like to say we have to keep educating, agitating, and raising awareness if we're ever going to disrupt this endless injustice and basically a white supremacy world order. So just keep it up, keep going, keep talking, keep educating, and learning about all the aspects of this genocide and ecocide. Thank you for listening. Free, free! Free, free! From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Netanyahu, you will see!
Palestine will be free!
Keir Starmer, you will see!
Palestine will be free!
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. I'd like to call on Raj Pereira, who's going to speak for Black Lives Matter and Stand Up to Racism. Thanks, Raj. Give it up for Raj, please.
Greetings, salam alaikum everyone.
Walaikum assalam.
What a great turnout today, and it's because of this movement we saw the back of the Tories and some of the vilest Tories like Suella Braverman. Rwanda is no more and we should celebrate for that. But I'll tell you one thing, the Tories are in a mess now and they are propping up the Zionist state. They have been. That task has passed over to Keir Starmer and David Lammy. They have blood on their hands. The Labour Party have been atrocious. They've gone along with the racism. They've opened the door to the racist. And Britain is now at a turning point with the first time that there is a hard block of far-right MPs in our parliament, which is an outrage. Farage and Reform are feeding off the despair, the resentment and the crisis that the Tories created and now the Labour Party have inherited. What we are seeing now is a massive growth of racism, and that racism is being used to attack our movement. Throughout London, in the universities, the student encampments for Palestine have faced attacks from fascist thugs, from Zionists. Every time we have had massive demonstrations in support of Palestine and against the genocide, the right wing, the racists and the fascists have opposed us. They've attempted to demonize us when it's they are the ones that are stoking up division and hatred. They are the ones that need to be demonized. So look, our demonstrations have been brilliant, but on Saturday, next Saturday, we need everyone here to turn out in force in London to march against the far right and Tommy Robinson, who is intending, he said he's declared a war on Islam. He has called on the far right to occupy all of London next Saturday. These streets are our streets. They do not belong to the fascists. And therefore, we need to organise ourselves against another threat that's growing. Not just in this country, but Robinson, the far-right thugs, his thugs, are encouraged by the racism of Farage. They are encouraged by the growth of fascism throughout Europe, Maloney in Italy, and nearly in France, Le Pen. And even in Germany, there are hardcore fascists in the parliament, the AfD. It is up to us next Saturday to take to the streets of London, because all of Europe are looking to us, are looking to London. We are the capital of global protests around Palestine. We need to turn that movement into a movement against the racists, against the fascists. So solidarity, the demonstration is supported by all the student encampments, all the major trade unions in this country, the Muslim Council of Great Britain, the Muslim Association of Britain. We urge you to stand together next Saturday in London against racism, against fascism. Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
Free, free!
Palestine!
Thank you, Rose. We've got something very, very special. One of our Enfield group is Palestinian, and she told me on a picket, on a protest we were on, that her grandparents were from Nazareth, and she found some diaries that her grandmother had written, and she was in the process of trying to get them out. So welcome, please, and let's listen to Juju, please.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I stand before you with deep gratitude and a heavy heart, compelled to share the events of the past 9 months that have profoundly shaped my outlook on life and affected countless others worldwide. The ongoing genocide that began 9 months ago in Gaza has sparked escalating violence and destruction in the West Bank, prolonged by the Zionist occupying forces as part of a deliberate process of ethnic cleansing. These unfolding tragedies have forced me to confront the harsh realities of death and daily suffering endured by Palestinians in their homelands every single day, altering my perspective on life forever. Although I'm not an experienced public speaker, I am privileged to have been asked to speak as a proud Palestinian and the proud granddaughter of Najwa Kawar Farah, a renowned Palestinian writer with Christian roots from Nazareth. Thank you. My grandparents, who spent their lives advocating for justice and peace, never wished to leave their homeland. However, the brutal realities of occupation left them, like thousands of other families, uprooted and displaced. Growing up, I witnessed my grandmother's passion and dedication to her homeland firsthand. Despite the constant heartache of separation, my grandmother, a steadfast believer in the human spirit's ability to overcome tragedy, clung to her faith and the transformative power of her words. She was a writer, poet, artist, and devoted advocate for Palestinian people, and through her art and literature, she expressed her profound love for her homeland. Her stories captured the pain and hope of ordinary Palestinians, especially refugees grappling with displacement and the longing for home. She often focused on the struggles of women, highlighting their resilience amid political oppression and social discrimination. Her tales echoed universal themes of love, loss, and the quest of belonging. Olive trees, a powerful symbol of resilience for Palestinians, frequently appearing in her paintings, symbolising our deep connection to the land and the ongoing destruction we face. The uprooting of olive trees is a poignant metaphor for the uprooting of our people. As Palestinians in the diaspora, many of us feel a profound longing to return home. We keep our heritage alive through art, poetry, and traditional embroidery passed down through generations. My grandmother's collection of poetry and writings is a testament to our culture and resistance against the erasure of our identity. Despite attempts to obliterate our identity, our connection to the land and our dreams remain steadfast in our hearts, and we will continue to pass down to our children and future generations to come. For the past 9 months, being a Palestinian and witnessing the atrocities committed by the Zionist occupiers in Gaza has left us living in a bubble of emptiness, powerlessness and grief, while surrounded by the surreal normality of everyday life. I want the world to know we are people. We are not just a number. And being Palestinian now means feeling betrayed by silence of those who couldn't reach out but choose to turn away. It means seeing those in power whom we trusted to enact justice and peace reveal themselves as forces sowing division, destruction and hatred. Yet on the other hand, being a Palestinian is a metaphor for patience and perseverance in pursuit of peace and justice for all with resilience and fortitude. We are all Palestinians. Yet, as it gets darkest before the dawn, where there is life, there is always hope for a better future for all. We are grateful for those who have stood up and spoke out for justice and peace, as you have here today. Like my grandparents who were devoted to their homeland and fought for Palestinian rights, we must preserve and amplify the voices of artists, writers and everyday people who illuminate the human experience. May their words continue to inspire compassion, understanding and a desire for justice in all of us. Please continue to voice, share and humanise our experiences. I cherish the quote from my grandmother's poem, The Giant. But so did he love his Palestine that he laid his life for it. And I leave you with an excerpt from my grandmother's poem, Lament, written by Gaza many years ago, and today is just as relevant. Lament, not for Gaza, but loss of humanity in humanity, for those massacring your children and your old, degraded the human and lauded the humanoid. No light in their eyes, their conscience is dead, and the women of Gaza cannot be consoled, for their children are no more. Thank you, and free Palestine!
Thank you. We are all Palestinians. We are all Palestinians. That was so moving. Thank you. Thank you to your grandmother as well. Thank you for giving us that, Gigi. Fantastic. I'm going to call Elaine from Stop the War. And we all know the role that Stop the War on PSC, Palestine Solidarity Statement, in organising all the marches. So give it up for Elaine, please.
Thank you, Linda. And thank you everyone who's turned out. I think it's a really fantastic local demonstration. And you know, I'm sure that our local Labour MPs, whether that's Kate Osborne or David Lammy down in Tottenham, I'm sure they wish we weren't here. And I'm sure they're wishing that we would just shut up and go away now. Because after all, they would say, well, they've said there should be a ceasefire, they've said there should be a pathway to a Palestinian state, whatever that means. Why can't we just leave it to them? And the reason why we're here, the reason why we know that we can't just accept that and shut down our movement, is that we know whatever they say, actually they're as committed to the same foreign policy that we were seeing from the Tories, which is unwavering support for US imperial interests, for Western imperial interests, unwavering support for Israel. And we know this because Keir Starmer's told us this.
After all, he was just at NATO saying that he wanted us to increase our defence spending to 2.5% of GDP. Now that sounds like quite a small number until you do the maths and you realise that that is an additional £18 billion on defence. And think how many children that could lift out of poverty. And they have the gall to tell us that they can't afford to lift the two-child benefit cap. And they want to spend £18 billion on killing Palestinian children. So we have to be in no doubt that what this government is telling us is that they are going to go on supporting the Israeli genocide. They are going to go on selling weapons to Israel to bomb Palestinian children. They have absolutely no intention of changing this. And we showed them at the election that they couldn't take our votes for granted. That just because we're in Labour areas, it doesn't mean that they can ignore us at the ballot box. And now we have another card that we have to show them that they can't take our silence for granted. We don't believe their warm words about, oh yes, we'll sort it out for Palestine tomorrow. We are demanding an end to UK support for Israeli genocide. We are demanding that they stop Israel's attack on Gaza. And we are not going to stop demonstrating until they do this. So we have two immediate political priorities. Those of you in Enfield, we're just about to launch a petition because the Enfield Council has a very substantial, and I'm forgetting the amount, but it's millions and millions of pounds invested in companies like Elbit, companies that are making the weapons that are killing Palestinians in Gaza. So we're going to call on them to immediately divest. Now they're going to say that, oh well, it's complicated, we can't do this. It's not complicated. They could take their investments out of companies that are profiting from genocide if they wanted to. They don't want to, so we're going to make them. So if you're in Enfield, look out for the launch of that petition. The second priority is the demonstration next week in central London against the far right. And we have to be under no illusions here, as other speakers have said. The far right is mobilising against us. They're mobilising against us because they're Islamophobic and they don't like seeing Muslim people on the streets. And they're mobilising against us in support of Israel because, to be honest, they look at Israeli society and they see, yes, that is basically a fascist society. We like that. We can support them. We like racist societies that kill their own people and invade people. That's what the far right is all about. So we have to be on the streets to show that we are not going to be cowed by the far right, that we are going to resist. So please turn out then and don't stop fighting until we end Israeli genocide. Free Palestine!
Brilliant, thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Stop the War. I'd like to invite Khaled, Ertan and Carl to come up. Khaled and Carl, just to explain. So what we were saying earlier about it being an Alison too, to speak from Haringey, what we were saying earlier about it, our protests that have made Gaza an election issue, and so Khaled and Carl and Ertan stood here in Enfield and Nandita in Haringey. And they stood on that basis. So I'm going to hand over to all of them and they can explain what they did, why they did it, and what they want to do. Yes. Go on, Khaled.
Thank you, Linda. Peace everyone, assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I was just speaking to Rebecca just before. I was here on the march in January, just as one of you guys, just literally someone from Edmonton. I grew up in Edmonton N18. I used to walk through this park to go to Latimer, to school. I've just been in this area for over 45 years. This is my area. 4th Street is my local street. I'd never thought in a million years I would manage to walk down 4th Street and demonstrate down my local high street. It actually means an awful lot to me that we can do this, and that we can do this in Enfield and with the support of the guys from Tottenham as well. It's just a fantastic achievement that we have come together and able to do this. And just as we've marched today, we came together at the election. As many of you knew, we've never had a real independent movement in Enfield. Never. You know, we've had a few kind of third parties, but really no. We came together literally within 6 weeks, and we stood on a pro-Palestinian ticket, and we stood for election, and we gave people a choice. And we wanted to give people a choice and say, if you stood for Palestine and you didn't want to vote for what the Tories were doing and equally what Labour was standing for, we wanted to give people a choice and say, vote positively. Don't have to waste your vote, don't have to spoil your ballot paper, and you can vote for what you believe in. Vote for a pro-Palestinian candidate that believes in ending the genocide, that believes in calling it a genocide, and believes in ending all the complicity. Not just the ban on the sales of arms, but also the security assistance that the UK government is giving, the bases in Cyprus that the UK government is providing. All of that is helping and assisting the genocide. And we wanted to stand and give people that opportunity to vote and vote positively. And we did. In Edmonton, we got 4% of the vote. Carl and Ertan got an equal number together in Southgate and Wood Green and Enfield North. And we're not going to stop. As Elaine has just said, we have to continue. We have to continue our demonstrations. We have to continue lobbying the council, as Elaine said, as Rebecca will talk through later. But we also have to continue the political angle as well. That is an important part. We have to put pressure on our local MPs and make sure that they are standing with us against Israeli genocide. And if they're not, that we're telling them, and we're telling them that we're watching them. And if they don't get themselves into gear, at the next election, local, at the next election, general, we will hold them to account, and we will certainly make sure our voice is heard. So please get together, join us as founder of the Enfield Community Action Group. We've got an action group where we're kind of liaising politically. It's really important that we all come together and we build on this momentum. So free. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, people of Enfield. We have watched the politicians wash their hands of the Israeli state's brutal slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, just like we watched Rodney King and all those other people being subjugated and held down. By parroting the Tories, Joe Biden and US capitalism, by voting to oppose a ceasefire back in November, Labour has proved before even getting to government that they're not on the side of the working class, which is all of us here, and the oppressed in Britain or internationally. These criminals need to be challenged by the protests like these and at the ballot box too. That's why we stood in the general election. We stood to be a voice for the 99%. The working class, bringing together trade unionists, community groups and campaigners like us all here today in this park. In Southgate and Wood Green, we distributed tens of thousands of leaflets saying end the slaughter in Gaza, build council homes, raise the minimum wage to £15 an hour, make the super rich pay. The capitalist system we live under has to go. It is based on making huge profits for the super rich minority, while the rest of us suffer. It is a system that breeds war and causes environmental destruction. We need a socialist change. We need a people's party. And that change can only be achieved by us, the 99%, the working class. Because every single one of us in this park has to work. We have no choice. We are the GDP of this country. Our starting point, and a great starting point, which happened in the general election, is a new party, a people's party that fights for our interests against all the bosses. Help us build this party. That's why we're here. We need to stop this war. And like Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, we matter. Because we are the people.
We matter, yeah, mate.
We are the people. And we have the power. And one of the things that has been drummed into us for years is that we don't matter. We just work. We're the ants. We're the work ants. And has everybody ever seen that film? Watch that film. There's a message in that movie. We are the ones that control the world. We just let the 1% take over because they've been telling us that they know what they're doing. But I've watched them do it for 14 years and it ain't helped me. It ain't helped none of us. So we need to get together and we do matter. Stop the war in Palestine. Stop the war in Gaza. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Sorry. Oh, right. Yes. Could we have? Sorry, Roland. Could Doug come along, because we're all admiring his fantastic horse, and I think Doug's going to give us a brief history of the horse. So give it up for the horse.
Hi everyone, thanks for welcoming me to Tottenham. So my name's Doug, I'm from a little town in the north. I'm an artist, and what's that inspired me to build this replica of the original Jennings horse was because art, dance, music, all these things is kind of what defines us as humans. You can take back everything right back to the start of human existence, and art was one of the things that humans did in caves, painting, things like this. So when the IOF dismantled and destroyed the original Jennings horse in the occupied West Bank in Jenin, I felt deeply that it was an attack on what makes us human. And through this, you can see the Palestinians really like survive on symbols. The olive tree, the keffiyeh, the watermelon. All these things are symbols, are super powerful to them. Now, the original Jennings horse came after the 2001 Jenin massacre. Over 500 people were massacred there in Jenin. The official Israeli numbers was around 50, but they were smuggling out the martyrs in busloads. An artist called Thomas Kilper flew out from Germany the year after, and with 15 or so people from the refugee camp, they decided to build a huge horse. You can see it's on the plaque on the front of the horse, the photos of the original. They built a huge horse out of all the destroyed vehicles, the aid vehicles, people's shops, people's livelihoods, and they paraded it around the West Bank on a tractor and trailer to show the Israelis that they can't crush the spirit of the Palestinians. Since 2002, it stood on the main roundabout in Jenin facing north with a nod back to the places that people were displaced from cities such as Haifa, with the idea that people will always return. Now, in November, the Israelis went in there emboldened by the events of October and smashed it with a bulldozer. Shame. So I saw this, and at that point I was kind of alone in this movement. I hadn't met any other activists or anybody else, and I was coming to some of the London demos from up north on my own and just like pottering along on the side, and I didn't really have a community around me, much like Thomas Kilper didn't when he went to Jenin originally. So it wasn't until a few months later, and I'd met other activists in my hometown and met lots of people with different backgrounds, different ages, from all different walks of life who were coming together for one thing. It kind of made me feel, I'm going to rebuild the Jenin horse, and I'm going to take it to, in the spirit of the original. It's made by over 100 different artists from my hometown and surrounding towns. Halifax, a small town called Halifax. I'm from Halifax, Friends of Palestine. So now, in the spirit of the original, it was built by lots of different people, like the original in Jenin. It's paraded around the UK. It's been to Liverpool, Leeds, Manchester, lots of student encampments, to UCL, lots of different places this past couple of weeks. It was out in the rain a couple of weeks ago on the National March, covered in plastic, and it seems to have built up a spirit inside it of resistance itself, like a walking thing of art. Every time, like look today, it started raining earlier, and then the rain clouds went away and it became sunny, and all my friends, I'm not religious, but I'm a very spiritual person, and it's kind of like it's developed its own power because there's so many people's sort of spirit inside it, and as it goes around the UK, people can add stuff to it. If you want, there's Instagram on the front. If you want to send me a poem or a picture your kids drawn or anything through the post, just send me a message. I'll send you my address. You can send something. In the end, it's just, I wanted it to show that they can destroy the horse in Jenin. They can try crush the spirit of the Palestinians, but we'll rebuild it here and parade it in front of the government, in front of David Lammy, and show them that they can't crush our spirits, and we'll keep marching. Thank you.
Thank you, Jed. Thank you for your fantastic horse. Let's support that horse everywhere it goes. My next speaker is Roland Brands, who speaks for Jewish Voice for Labour. Yes. Anyway, no, not actually Jewish Voice for Labour. He can explain that, I'm sure, himself. But just to say, thank you Two, Roland, you've spoken at every stand-up to racism meeting in Enfield. I've known him for a few years, and give him a big applause.
Thank you, Linda. The first thing to say is that I'm sure, like many of you here, I am no longer a member of the Labour Party. I cannot in good conscience remain a member. It's abundantly clear that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. The official figure of deaths has stood at about 38,000 for months now, because Israel has systematically destroyed all data collection mechanisms in Gaza. We don't know the real figures, but it's clearly a vast estimate. Last month, the medical journal The Lancet offered a conservative estimate that if the war stopped then, if the fighting stopped then, the number of deaths directly or indirectly attributable to Israel's actions would be 186,000. Since then, Israel's bombings and actions have continued. We know that it's much more than that by now. It's already approaching 1/10 of the population of Gaza has been killed by, directly or indirectly, by Israel's actions. And the horror has increased immensely in the past week with the discovery of polio virus in Gaza's water, which can be expected to cause many more deaths. It's also been estimated that there are at least twice as many casualties, injuries as deaths, which means that if the fighting were to stop today, if Israel was to immediately totally stop all actions in Gaza today, already something like a quarter of the population of Gaza will be directly or indirectly a casualty of Israel's actions since October. In addition to this human genocide and the ecocide about which we heard earlier, Israel has been committing ethnocide in Gaza, with the near total destruction of the region's cultural, social, educational and economic resources. Israel has destroyed dozens of schools and hospitals, damaged hundreds more, as well as more than 1,000 mosques and all 3 churches. It's also destroyed or seriously damaged the water and sewage systems, the electricity generators, the flour mill, most of the roads, and an estimated 80% of the buildings. The UN has estimated that rebuilding Gaza will cost billions and take at least 15 years. Meanwhile, while world attention has been focused on Gaza, Israel has also been continuing its racist war crimes in the West Bank, where hundreds of Palestinians have been killed and thousands expelled from their homes since October, and inside the Israeli state itself, where daily systematic racism continues, and where last month the Bedouin village of Al-Araqib was totally demolished for the 227th time in the past 15 years. It's impossible to look at these facts and to deny that it's genocide. So Israel and its apologists don't even try to deny them. Instead, they try to prevent anyone from even looking at the facts by accusing anyone citing them of anti-Semitism. This is a thoroughly bad faith charge, and you should not let it bother you, except in the unlikely event that you really do hate Jews. It's not anti-Semitic to oppose genocide and war crimes. It's not anti-Semitic to call on the British government to stop arms sales to Israel and to support international law in the Middle East. And it is not anti-Semitic to stand alongside our Palestinian sisters and brothers and to join them in calling for an end to the occupation, an end to systemic racism, and the return of refugees to the homes and lands from which they were expelled 76 years ago. What is anti-Semitic is to argue, as the Israeli state does, that all Jews support the racist Zionist project. What is anti-Semitic is to claim that support for Israel is an integral part of Jewish religion and identity. What is anti-Semitic is to insist that anti-Zionists like me are in some way not really Jews at all. Not all Jews are Zionists. From its origins, Jews have always opposed Zionism. Liberal Jews, socialist Jews, Orthodox Jews, all for various reasons have denounced Zionism and theory and practice. We stand up and say, not in our name. And never forget that most Zionists are not Jews. The huge majority of Zionists, over 90% by some estimates, are in fact evangelical Christians, many of whom are outright anti-Semites, as indeed were both Balfour and Churchill, of whom we've heard earlier. They support Israel not because they love Jews, but because they hate us and they want us to convert to Christianity or to be slaughtered in the final battle on the plains of Armageddon. So don't let the fear of false allegations of anti-Semitism stop you from fighting for Palestinian rights. justice for Palestine is an integral part of the fight against all forms of racism. And the only way to ensure a safe and just future for Israeli Jews just as much as for Palestinians is to join and to strengthen the call and the fight for a free Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you. Just a word. We've got to